Good evening, everyone. If y'all can start taking your seats so that we can start in a couple of minutes.
Test. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Weather permitting, everybody's dressing warm. It's warm in here. We have snacks, so we're just going to kick this thing off. Thank you all for coming again, and I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Gutierrez for a few words. Thank you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here, and so we can continue with our bond information that we're almost getting to the finish line and finalizing all the projects. So we have quite a few things to cover today. We have a couple of presenters. We're going to have, first and foremost, Ms. Lorena Garcia, our Deputy Superintendent, talk about the priorities. I think all of you have a copy with you of each campus, and what we did, we identified the priority ones based on the MGT study, okay? What we wanted to do, we wanted to just put those priority ones by campus so you can see it at each campus one at a time, all right? And then, so we have that, and so we kind of like bringing the list down to just what is absolutely necessary as far as priorities. The other thing that we are going to talk about for a little bit is that we ask each principal to give us your top 3 priorities, and thank you, principals. All of you gave us your top 3 priorities, and so we have those that we're going to show you on the screen. Each one of you gave us your top 3 priorities, okay? So we have that, your top 3 priorities from each principal. We have the priority ones as based on the MGT study that you have a copy of, and then and so we're just coming down to the finish line to try to narrow down the projects that we are going to work on for the district for each campus. The other thing that we're going to have is we have Estrada and Hinojosa, who are going to just go over the finances. We already talked about that, but we're just going to cover that, give an overview of that. And then Pfluger, which is our pre-bond architects, are going to then discuss the rest of of the plan and what we are going to be doing for the next couple of weeks until we finalize the list of the bond projects and then have a recommendation and talk to the board about the recommendations for the bond. So we're almost at the finish line. We're almost finishing everything that we've talked about for the last several months. And so today is going to be a day that we are going to now focus on the higher priority needs and the top 3 that each principal gave us and start finishing that list very soon based on your input and based on the studies that we have done with MGT along with Fluger Architects. Okay? So let me go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Lorena Garcia so she can cover the first couple of items on the agenda. Ms. Garcia?
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and some of you had a very long break, so we're thankful for that. But thank you for joining us, and I know that you all have been part of this journey that we've been on since May 2025, and you've been there right along with us in all of this planning, providing your wonderful feedback. So we're very thankful for that. In this Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee meeting, we want to, first of all, go back and kind of review what are some of the things that we've already accomplished. We've had at least 3 meetings, and this will be the 4th one, regular meetings with the Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee. And then we've also had 2 town halls where we invited the public, and they had an opportunity to provide their input on the first town hall. And in the second town hall, if you recall, MGT was able to give us a presentation of their final report, and this was shared with the community and the board as well. As part of the process, some of you followed us along with the campus tours. We had several tours that some were done by MGT and their engineers, and they went campus by campus studying each facility. Those of you that are principals had the opportunity to meet with them and to talk about the educational adequacy of each of your campuses and provide feedback on what those needs are. And they were able to see firsthand what those priorities are at each campus to be able to create their facilities master plan. The second tours were where we invited the Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee members to be part of that. And some of you were with us and joined us, and we followed the principal around, and they were able to also show us the facilities. We also received quite a bit of financial information from our consultant, our financial advisor, Estrada Hinojosa, and they're here with us tonight to provide a summary of where we are now. And then the facility condition assessment were conducted by MGT. They did provide a report in October, and we recently had a board workshop where we reviewed project by project with the board on November 12th. So that catches us up where we are now. And today, we wanted to share with you some information that we shared with the board. And I know this is kind of small, so that's why you got copies. What we did is we put the priority 1 projects, which is what MGT identified as things that had to do with safety and security or continuity of operations. For example, in order to continue providing classes, you have to have a good roof over the building. So that would be a priority 1 project. In addition to that, the administration, along with Mr. Trevino's knowledge and his background from what he has seen as part of the needs of the campus, and what our conversations have been with the board and other administrators, we also came up with a list, and which are very similar. They overlap, the administration's list and the MGT list. So I put those 2 lists together and organized it by campus in a simpler way for you to look at. And as you can see, there's a lot of work having to do with cabling and network upgrades, technology upgrades at every single campus. We also have things like HVAC projects, electrical roofing projects. We need some upgrades to our intercoms. We have some parking lot resurfacing. We also have some major projects as far as looking at some of our campuses that are overpopulated and have classrooms and portables and creating new classroom additions. We do have some projects that involve the gymnasiums for several elementaries, converting their pavilion into a gymnasium. And then we have some safety and security enhancement, adding surveillance cameras as well as access control. We also have HVAC controls. That's another area that we are looking at. So as you can see, every single campus has priority 1 needs identified, and some have a little bit more needs than others. And in some cases, an older campus, like MGT said, may not have as much needs because by now some of those things have been replaced, and some of the newer campuses, it's coming around that it's their replacement schedule. It's time for us to replace those things. So that's why you might see a difference there. And these are the elementary campuses. And then we have a list of the secondary campuses. Here are the middle schools and the projects that are identified. Another project that we're looking at as a priority is LED lighting, upgrading that so we could have a better instructional environment for our students and our staff, but also be able to generate some savings on our electricity costs. We have some classroom modernizations. It's been a while since our classrooms have been updated, so we're looking at that, some renovations, especially at the high school. We're looking at our fine arts area, our CTE areas, as well as athletics. And these are the high school. As you can see, the high schools, their list is quite extensive because there is a lot of work that needs to be done at those campuses. And then next I'm going to show you our principals were asked to provide a list of their priorities. What are the top 3 things that they feel that they need at their campuses? And that's what you're looking at right now. It's not in any particular order. We have Gonzalez Elementary, which is talking about the classroom additions. They also would like to prioritize student and staff restrooms and expand the clinic. Roosevelt Elementary, walkway to the gym, sidewalks, an awning, playground upgrade, install and repair awnings in certain areas. McAuliffe Elementary, gym, ceiling, floor, create storage. They also want some upgrades to their cafeteria. And some of these projects are going to overlap with the projects that we've already identified. But these are in order of importance to the campus principal. We decided to give them that opportunity to provide that survey. We also have early childhood classrooms and self-contained. There's some special ed work. Sanchez Elementary, dedicated gym space. That is on the other list. HVAC system, roofing. Seguin, HVAC, new cafeteria, gym remodel. Hendricks, fire panel, gym, music room. Houston, replace HVAC system, address fountain issues. Water, build a gymnasium. So that is part of the priority list that I showed you previously. Perez Elementary gym, covered sidewalks and parking. Milam cafeteria, new wing and parking. Garza, they're looking for modernization, safety and security, and technology readiness. Jackson Elementary is looking to replace the HVAC system campus-wide, installation of covered walkways with upgraded sidewalks, self-contained classrooms as well. Rayburn would like an inclusive playground equipment and updated playscapes, additional parking area to keep traffic off of community streets, and then of course HVAC upgrades. Fields is also looking at playground equipment, HVAC electrical, and additional parking. Alvarez, HVAC and electrical upgrade. They would like to see a cafeteria renovation, an update of walkways and coverings. Castañeda would like to enclose their gym, they'd like some AC work and then more adult restrooms. Escanon Elementary office area, lobby area, they would like some renovations in that area, HVAC work and plumbing. Big Ben Zavala, there's some flooding issues at the gym area. They would like addressed, covered walkways and parking. Wilson HVAC, gym, and more parking. So that gives you an idea what kind of things are on their minds. In secondary, we're looking at Fossum roof. They would like a track turf field and classroom technology. Lamar would like security cameras installed, exterior walls of the original building, water moisture buildup. They would like their skylights repaired as well. Mac High, remove all portables and add a new wing. Addition to band hall to include mariachi dance program. Add boys and girls athletic field houses to accommodate the number of athletes. Morris Middle School would like a new wing for the classrooms and portables, roof and HVAC, campus lighting, a classroom in the hallways and the exterior. Kathy Middle School would like a roofing in their entire building and HVAC repairs. And then they also would like some work for athletes that have to cross 495 for sports practices. That's a safety concern. Achieve Early College High School is interested in updating their locker rooms for students in PE. And then a larger parking lot as well as a receptionist. That's not in the bond. That's staffing. You thought you'd just throw that in there. Row would like some dedicated spaces for mariachi and marching band, parking lots repaved and lighting in the parking lots. Science labs to meet dual credit requirements. An ING, a wing for the portable classroom, and an annex building roof, perimeter fence in the front and around the parking lot. Travis Middle School, they're looking at parking lot repairs, building upkeep, including aesthetics, so maybe some modernization there, and AC issues as well. Brown Middle School, updated special needs classrooms, update office area, and update science classrooms. And Memorial would like roofing replacements, especially in their CTE, athletics, gym, and auditorium area. They would like a music building and parking lot improvements. De Leon, relocation, rebuilding of the reception area. Front entrance is what they're looking at. Upgraded safety front entrance, and upgrade of all staff and student restrooms, and upgrade of science labs. So that gives you an idea what our principals are thinking in terms of priorities at their campuses, okay? So a lot of that aligns with what we've talked about, right? Some of the projects maybe are a little bit more granular, like the covered walkways and so forth, but a lot of it is relevant to what we've been discussing. And now I'm gonna turn it over to our financial advisor. They will talk about financial options. We have Bobby Villarreal. I was going to call you Escamilla again. I'm sorry.
No problem. Good evening. Again, Bobby Villarreal with Estrada and Hosta. My partners, Angel Magallanes and Jose Silva. Again, I don't know if they have that next slide.
Yes.
So I want to thank you, first of all. I'm a McAllen parent as well, so Gonzalez, Kathy, Lamar. So I know I want to appreciate all the good work that y'all put in the input of getting this project to this juncture. It's a big effort, as Lorena looked over, but so I'll just tell you this much. I was with some people last night that are from McAllen, live in McAllen, different occupations, attorneys, etc. They asked me, how are y'all going to do this without a tax rate increase? And so first and foremost, I told them just a few things. Your number one asset in this city is your school district. They're your number one employer. So you are the most important asset to this city as the school district. So again, as a $335 million, so the concept is, I think I mentioned this at the last school board meeting, but in my household, my wife gets the new car, and when we pay off her new car, I get her car, and then she gets a new car, and then we keep the same payment. So a similar concept here is that all the debt that the schools had over the years, we're about to pay almost all of it off in the next, I guess, this fiscal year. So essentially, we're paying it off. And so the other thing that's happened too over the last several years, the state's done compressions on the M&O, which is what runs your school district. So as those M&O pennies or tax rate goes down, we've moved some of that to the INS side. INS pays your mortgage or your debt. So that same concept. So right now, we've calculated that $335 million can address the projects mentioned by Lorena with no tax rate increase. And so if you notice there, we would sell these in 4 tranches. We estimate to do them in that order just to mitigate any tax impact, to be efficient as well, because it can take some time as you're operating the school, so it's hard to borrow so much at one time and put all the improvements at one time. So we can spread it out over a few years, and it'll mitigate any tax rate increase. So essentially, over the last, I guess, decade, since 2018, the overall tax rate was 115. Today, you're at 93. And from last year to this year, we actually dropped another 6 pennies. So overall, what is that, Angel? Like 22 pennies over the last decade have been dropped on the overall tax rate. So what we're trying to accomplish is fix the school district's assets and not have a tax rate increase on the people. What you should know is just by law, the state legislature, to make things hard, they'll put, this is a tax increase on the ballot, and you got to explain it, but it is what it is. That's the game they play, and we'll have to live with it. But the bottom line is you can fix the things you need to do without a tax rate increase. And that's the manner in which we've accomplished it. So I don't know if there's any questions about what I just, I kind of talked about. Yes, sir.
I'm just not familiar with this concept. So as far as the sold tranches, so assume that bond gets passed, you sell the first tranche, 100 million, 2026.
Mm-hmm.
When does that money get
So theoretically, if you guys, this would be a May election, they'd have to, the school board would have to call it roughly around Valentine's Day, that February, second week of February. So then you have the election in May, we canvass the vote, it's successful, we're probably in the market selling it within 90 days. And we would also probably even have a reimbursement resolution where the school could get started almost immediately, reimburse them when we sell the bonds. So sometime in the summer of next year. Anybody else?
Explain the 4 trenches. Just if you could explain the 4 trenches, because I know that's going to be how the bond is going to be divided if it passes.
Yeah. So if we had done all 335 in one shot, we may have had to do some structuring or defer some principal to make sure we would fall under the tax rate that we were targeting. That was one reason, so that you're spreading out this over 4 years. If the taxable value of the school district actually goes up a little higher than we think, we may actually not need 4 tranches. We may do it in 3. But by the same token, I know there's a lot of logistics that you got to go through, because you're still going to operate the schools. So you may be having to do bits and pieces as you move forward, so certain parts of the school. So that was one part of the reason why go borrow $300 and pay interest on all of it if you can't finish the projects within that year. So these projects will take probably 3 to 4 to 5 years to complete. So we want to be efficient with the tax dollars. Yes, sir.
Bobby, can you talk a little bit about
Oh, yeah.
fall for under 65 and over 65, and what that would mean for taxpayers
Yeah.
and the town.
So this past November, I guess we just finished, right? About 3 weeks ago, we voted to increase the homestead exemption from 100,000 to 140,000. And if you're 65 and older, it actually went to 200,000. And if you're 65 and older, whatever you pay in taxes today is frozen. It can't actually go up. But this is for school districts only. So, Angel, do you remember what the average homestead value was here? 247? Yeah. So for argument's sake, I'll just round up. Say it was 250,000 for this area. You know, you would exempt 140 of it, so you'd only be paying on 110,000 on taxes. And again, if you're a senior, say you're 65 and older, and your house is worth 200,000, if you adopt your senior tax homestead exemption, you actually pay 0 in taxes to the school. And again, if you're under 65 and you have a house that's less than 140, you would pay 0 in school taxes. And again, if you're a senior, period, you're frozen, you shouldn't pay any more in taxes than last year. Unless you renovate your house, add a pool, a wing, you know, a really big doghouse. Anybody? Well, like I said, on behalf of Angel, well, Dr. Miguel couldn't make it, but on our guys, we're really proud to do work with you guys. It was a lot of Herculean effort, but it's not over. But thank you for everybody who provided the input to get this product going. Thank you.
So this information is going to be important later on in the presentation, so keep that in mind. I hope you all had an opportunity to look at that carefully. Now I will introduce Dr. Robbie McAllen. He is with Pfluger Architects, and he will walk us through the next part of our presentation tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Thank you. We're so grateful at Pfluger to have the opportunity to work with McAllen ISD, Dr. Gutierrez and his team, and we're grateful to be here. Let me introduce just a few of the folks on our team who are supporting this work in McAllen ISD who are here this evening. We have Josh Sawyer, who is our lead educational planner with the firm. We have Dr. David Young, who is a communications and community engagement manager with the firm. We have Sean Connor, who's a senior project manager with the firm, and Connie Rivetta, who is our managing principal of our office that serves South Texas. Anyway, there are a lot of other folks who are supporting your community and your district behind the scenes as we help you prepare for the most well-planned and successful bond program that you can have. I also want to, before we get into the project framework, I just want to commend this district and the community. This project, as Ms. Garcia mentioned earlier this evening, this process started actually last spring. I believe May 7th, I think, was your first meeting of the FFAC. And so this, this district takes this process very seriously. It's evident. I've had the opportunity to be at several of your board meetings and listen to the board as they're engaging in this process. Listen to the folks from Estrada Hinojosa who have presented there at board meetings I've been at. Again, it's been a very thoughtful process, and we believe that that is going to end up with the best and most efficiently planned bond process. This is not something that you want to rush into, and obviously this district has not done that. So what we would like to do tonight, a couple of things, is we want to engage you in this conversation about this approach. And you heard already tonight, and you've heard along the way, some information about these projects. And obviously, there's these projects aren't just something that we develop out of thin air. There's a purpose behind how projects are identified. You heard, if you were at our town hall meeting that was held, I believe, at the end of October, where MGT presented the facilities condition assessment. A lot of work was done by both that firm and the district staff in identifying the condition of your current facilities. The staff's also been working on what are additional or modernized facilities that need, that the students and the staff of the district need and the community needs. One way to help understand the why of this, of these projects, is to think about them rather than just a laundry list of projects. Think about them in a framework. This is a way that helps in lots of context. It helps, the framework helps the decision makers, namely the board and the senior staff of the district, in identifying that the final projects that will be included in a bond referendum. It also helps in telling the why. As you know, ultimately, the success of a bond referendum is determined by the voters. And the voters oftentimes are informed as much by the why as they are about the what. We can explain to them the what. We can explain to them that Morris Middle School has exceeding capacity, student capacity. We can explain that. We can show them the numbers, but we can also talk about the why, talking about why having adequate number of classrooms for students is important, why having adequate roofing and HVAC systems, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems are important. So these categories that you see on the screen in front of you are, we sometimes refer to them as buckets, but they are elements of a project framework where we can say that this is the why in terms of why projects are important to the district. Now, I want to be really clear here. Not every single project fits really neatly into just one bucket. You may look at these and think back to the project list we saw earlier and think, well, that could fit, I could see where that could fit in district equity, but I also see where that could be a modernization project as well. That is true. You are going to have some overlap, but this still helps us in putting together the why. And then, and I'm actually going to call upon you to help us with this a little later, it helps to prioritize because some decisions will need to be made. I heard a person say one time when they were talking about bond planning that you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. And what that means is that there certainly, we could come up with a list of needs that the district may have, and my guess is, and by the way, I work for an architect, but I'm not an architect. I'm actually a former, or as my friend Dr. Young back there in the room would say, we are recovering superintendents. I'm a former superintendent, former principal. I jokingly say that's what happened to my hair was when I was a high school principal. It somehow disappeared, right? Good, you say that? It's a good, yeah. But even as an educator, I can tell you that you come up with a list of needs, legitimate needs, and my guess is we would exceed that $335 million, right? So at some point, there's going to have to be some prioritization made. And so looking at these project framework buckets also helps us both as a committee, and then ultimately, remember, this is the Future Facilities Advisory Committee. Our mission is to advise the district leadership and ultimately the Board of Trustees, who will have to call for an election. So just a little bit of a background about why we do these. let me roll briefly, and you can read those in front of you. I won't read them verbatim, but just I want to go through these, what these buckets or these elements of the framework are. And these are not listed in any particular order, although I am, like I said earlier, I'm going to call upon you a little later this evening to help us, give us what you think that order may be. But there's wellness, safety, and security. So those would be enhancements that, just like the title says, that enhance student well-being, building access, emergency preparedness, those types of things. District equity, that you seem to think of, well, you have several campuses in the district. Are we providing equitable access to the various campuses around the district? And sometimes it's those things happen over the years. That may be because one campus may be newer than the other, but we oftentimes in bond programs, districts find that is a good time to address those equity issues. Modernization and alignment. You know, education is certainly different today than it was when I was in a classroom, and we obviously want to prepare our students in the most modern educational environment that we can. We want to provide that for our educators. And so modernizing and aligning with our instructional mission. You will hear us say often that this process is about instruction more than it is about construction. You don't want to build buildings and renovate buildings for the sake of building and renovating buildings. You do it because it aligns with your mission of educating the children of your community and supporting the educators of your community, because that's that alignment part. Learning beyond the classroom. There are learning environments and that depends on how you define a classroom even. But learning, providing both co-curricular, extracurricular, and enhancement programs that may be beyond the classroom, outdoors, labs, hands-on experiences, those types of things. Think about beyond what sometimes people think about as that traditional classroom. And then district-wide improvements. Those are those investments that you just have to have in your buildings to keep them both modern, to keep them up to date, to keep them, sometimes those are related to just elements of the building that have outlived their life cycle. I don't know if any of you have ever had to replace an air conditioner at your house or put a new roof on your house, and but districts have to do that as well. In fact, I was thinking when Bobby was presenting tonight about the finances, and I was thinking about how fortunate this community is because of, I think, the good financial stewardship of the leadership of this district and the citizens of this district, that you're in a situation where you could generate $335 million with no tax increase. So that's a really, really good thing. And we want to continue to inform people that is a really, really good thing. What is also true about that is that it's been a few years since there's been a bond program that has passed and been implemented in McAllen. And your staff, Mr. Trevino and his staff and all of the district staff are doing a great job of keeping our facilities, your facilities, maintained as best as you can. But ultimately, there are going to be major improvements and capital investments that need to be made. So when we talk about things, I know sometimes people don't get excited about things like roofs, but they're very, very important. In fact, I was really impressed to see it. A lot of that came up in the list that came from you, from the principals as well. So those are the things that fall under that last bucket. So the next slide is going to look very similar. However, what we've done is we took that list of those priority 1 projects. Now you may think, well, hang on a second, this is just one slide and there were pages of those priority 1 projects. Well, if you'll notice, we collapsed, rather than listing them campus by campus, on many of them, we just collapsed them into certain, all into one line item. So for instance, if you look at the second line item under wellness, safety, and security, and you see roofing at 16 campuses, that's where, that was probably shown 16 times on the slide earlier, and we've collapsed them here. I also want to reiterate that this is not an all-inclusive list of what projects would be in the bond. These are those priority 1, top priority lists that were identified in large part from the MGT facility condition assessment that was done. So if you notice, I'll go through these really real quickly, and then I want to show you some pictures to kind of, because oftentimes a picture says 1,000 words, right? But you see we have wellness, safety, and security projects, everything from district-wide safety upgrades, HVAC, and roofing. Now, somebody's got to be thinking the question. So I will actually ask y'all, who can tell me why you think HVAC and roofing would be listed under this category? Anybody have an idea? You didn't know I was going to put you on the spot tonight, did you? Right, okay, so air quality has a lot to do with wellness, and both your roof and your HVAC system has a lot to say about that. I saw on the principal list somebody said something about skylights and fixing the skylights, right? It's not so much that we're worried about the water puddle that may be on the floor, but it's what is that doing to the wellness for our students and the air quality in our building. That second, remember district equity, so we have classroom additions. That's where equity oftentimes is. Do we have enough space for our children at each campus? Gym enclosures at certain campuses that you see listed there, and also cafeteria remodels. So giving some equity to some of those campuses that are in need of that. Some examples of modernization would be renovations at your 3 comprehensive high schools. Those renovations would include fine arts, would include CTE, PE, and athletic events. And I saw a lot of that listed when I saw the suggestions that came in from the principals. Also, CTE centers, how we address CTE and preparing our students to be career ready. Learning beyond the classroom, that would specifically, things that have come up and kind of tier 1 projects for that would be multi-purpose and fine arts rooms at each of the campuses, like a black box to help you kind of understand what that is, like a black box theater. Any of you who are familiar with those, that would be, those would fall under that learning beyond the classroom. And then those other district-wide improvements, LED lights, parking, and surfacing. So the next few slides actually just give us some visuals of these. So again, I'll go through these pretty quickly, and I wanna give a little bit of a disclaimer. These are conceptual images. Nothing has been designed yet. That time will come, but nothing has been designed. This is just, again, an idea to give you a visual image rather than just words on a screen. So we can go forward. So like front entrances, security vestibules, that would be one. Next would be other safety upgrades, including access points, locks, cameras, those types of things. HVAC and roofing on campuses, HVAC upgrades and roofing projects. And then the next bucket was district equity and growth. So under that, we talked about classroom additions. at 3 campuses to accommodate the enrollment at those campuses. So a couple of examples of what classrooms look like. Gym or gym enclosures at 5 campuses. Remember, that was again a part of that equity, to provide equity across the district. Cafeteria remodels were the same thing, to provide equity across the district for cafeteria remodels. Modernizations and alignment. So again, aligning, bringing our facilities up to kind of more modern, and then also aligning with our instructional mission. So we talked about high school renovations. That would include fine arts. They would include CTE renovations. They would also include the possibility of a CTE center, a standalone CTE center, is a possibility under consideration. The next would be PE, or learning beyond the classroom. Those spaces and some examples of that: high school renovations that fall under the PE athletics umbrella, multi-purpose rooms, that black box that we talked about. I know there's been talk about making sure there's space for mariachi and your other programs that are offered on your campuses. So some examples, pictures of those. And then those district-wide projects, those capital investments, HVAC. These aren't the exciting pictures, obviously, but they're very, very important. Your LED lighting, and that LED lighting, a good question came up from one of the trustees at the last board workshop. And LED lighting, when you see that, that's one of those that could fall under a couple of different categories, because LED lighting is an upgrade that helps make your buildings more efficient. But the question also was about like exterior lighting and safety lighting. And so that would be included as well. So that's a good example of a project that could really fall into more than one of these buckets. And parking resurfacing and expansion across the district at 15 campuses. All right, so you've listened to me talking for several minutes. And I told you that we wanted to hear from you this evening. So we have 2 questions that we want to run by the committee to get your feedback on. The first is, and if you remember, Ms. Garcia asked you, she said, remember the slide when Bobby was talking to us about the possibility that $335 million could be generated without raising the tax rate at all. So the first thing we'd like to know from you is, do you agree with that approach to addressing the bond planning? So it's simply where you're gonna be able to pick on a scale from strongly disagree to strongly agree. So if you'll take your phones out, and you can go open your browser and go to menti.com. I will do this as you are doing it so that we can talk along with this. Open a new browser. So if you go to menti.com, then you're going to be asked, it's going to say, enter the code to join. So that code at the top is 5115, and you don't have to type in the space that's in between those, and then 1110, and then press join. Let me just remember my classroom days. I want to check for understanding and make sure. Raise your hand. Is there anybody who needs help still finding this? And we can walk around. So what you'll do on this first one is you'll take your finger or your thumb and you will slide anywhere from 1 to 4 on your level of agreement with this approach to developing a bond program that is a zero tax increase. bond program. So it's simply a scale from 1 to 4, with 1 being strongly disagree, 4 being strongly agree, and then you will click submit. Then after you click submit, this is where we find out who the real rule followers are in the room, who goes on to the next one without being told to go on to the next one. You'll have a wait here until instructed to click next. How many principals are in the room? Raise your hand if you're a campus principal. Okay. I'm not going to ask the question, but I'm just wondering, in full disclosure, I'm a former high school principal. I'm just wondering, of the principals that may have clicked next before being instructed to do so, my guess is I bet the secondary ones did it more than the elementary ones. I bet the elementaries are more of the, I bet y'all are more of the rule followers. Am I right about that? No, maybe not? Okay, maybe I shouldn't incriminate anyone. So the next question, if you'll go ahead and click next, is to help provide us with what you believe if you had to prioritize those 5 buckets that we talked about. You're not prioritizing individual projects. That will come, that will be the next step. But it helps the organization to know what this committee's opinion is about when having to make some of the hard decisions on determining which all projects will be in a bond. My guess is most of those Tier 1 projects will be in a bond, but there may be some of those other projects that we'll have to be considering. Then which of the buckets should take first priority? Even the one that is ranked 5th is still very important. It's just a way of prioritizing. So what you will simply do is you will start clicking on the names of those buckets underneath, and the first one you click is the one you believe is the highest priority. So you will click those until you have a list of 5. And by the way, they are randomly assigned on your phone. We did not list them in any specific order, so what your neighbors may have looked like when they first pulled it up on their phone may have looked different than yours. But if you put those together and just click, then you will have your priority. And once you come up with a 1 through 5 list and you have a blue submit button, you can click submit. And then you'll get a thanks for joining message. What questions do you have about that process? So what we will do with this information will be shared back ultimately with this committee. There's a board meeting next week. We'll have this data available to share with the trustees for their board meeting, and we will, and then ultimately share that with all of you. And so let's talk about next steps. I think we have a slide for that, do we, Ms. Garcia? Oh, no, just questions. Okay, so there's a lot of work going on in this process, and there's a lot still to be done. What we are doing is working alongside the district leadership to develop these prioritized project lists based upon the feedback we're getting from you as you've submitted these projects, the feedback we just got from you tonight, based upon the priorities that were presented in the report from the folks at MGT who did your facility condition assessment. And we also will work to define what the scope of that project is, so that we can work alongside the district to provide the best cost estimate we can, so that when we reconvene with you January the 7th, when we reconvene with you, And obviously, the board will be receiving this information along the way, but we will reconvene with you, and we will have a well-defined scope of what those projects are, again, in alignment with your district's priorities. And we will have more refined cost estimates for those, because we want to make sure that you have the most accurate information possible. Obviously, the board has to have that information because they're the ones that would be responsible for calling for an election. So the next steps after that would be for a recommendation to be made to the Board of Trustees. And as Bobby mentioned earlier in his presentation, the date is actually February the 13th is the last date that an election can be called for the May 2026 election cycle. And there is a board meeting February the 10th. So that's our target would be, that would be the board meeting where the board would call for the election. Now, calling for the election, there's a lot of work that goes up to that, but that is also just, in some ways, just the beginning, right? You then have this period of time where it'll be important for the district to continue in educating and engaging the community. There are limitations on what the district can do. The district can educate, but they cannot campaign. But the district will be working alongside the district and the district's leadership and the board and their communications team to make sure that every citizen in this community is as well informed as they possibly can be to make this decision. And it can get a little tricky. As we heard earlier from the financial advisor, there are some rules that the state has put. For instance, they do put on the ballot that this voting for this is a tax increase, even though it would not raise your tax rate. So there'll be some educating that we'll need to do with the community, and then we can certainly do that. So now let me open it up again. What questions do you have about the next steps of this process? Yeah, anything that you've heard this evening that we can answer a question on. Yes, sir.
This
Yeah.
may be putting the cart ahead of the horse,
Okay.
but what have you seen in other communities that have successfully called for a bond election in terms of illuminating the why? Right? And when I
Right.
say that is because as I was going through walkthroughs and I saw the condition of some of our HVAC rooms,
Right.
my sentiment is I don't know a single person in this community that if they saw what I saw would be in opposition per se. How do we
Right.
get them to see that?
Well, we've seen districts who literally will host, information. It has to be informational only, but can host even campus visits during that time where it's open to the community. We worked with the district outside of the Corpus area, Flower Bluff, where they were very successful with that. They opened it up to folks that wanted to come out and see some of those things, and we were able to show them some of those things. So engaging and educating your community in those ways, so visually. What we see is that although, I've heard, I didn't come up with this saying, but I've heard this several times from school leaders, and Dr. Gutierrez, I'm sure you've heard this before, that, we are, in public education, we are entrusted with people's two most precious possessions, right? Their children and their dollars. And although the finances are important, they are very important, it is important for people, this community, to understand the why and how these projects align with your mission. So it's not just that, hey, we can do $335 million worth of work and not raise your taxes. I mean, that's great, and that will certainly be a piece of the information. But what is also true about this information is this community, and I may get in trouble here because I'm getting ready to call out just one of your 3 high schools, and I was a superintendent in a district where we had multiple high schools, so I'm not picking favorites here. But I want to tell you about one of my very first ever introductions. I live in the Houston area. I live outside in a town called Alvin, outside of Houston area. But during COVID, I was able to see Mariacho Oro, is that right? Mm-hmm. At Mac High, a production of Unchained Melody that they performed. It is still, if you go to my YouTube page, it's one of my most viewed videos. I love that video. And then I learned that we could really use some dedicated space for a program like that, right? We're doing some amazing things, and there's some real needs. So putting the story to that and not just the data is also something that we've seen has been impactful in communities. That was probably a really long-winded answer to your question, but yeah, just wanted to give you some examples there. Yeah. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I appreciate your presentation. I appreciate how you lay it out. The buckets totally make sense to me. And I think my comments are more for the leadership here as we go into the next steps, and we're going to develop the why, right? Tell the story, right? I'm interested in the what, right? As because we started from this huge list, we'll lay down to another list in priority 1, and on mission critical, and then there's going to be another condensed list, right? To really, because I thought I heard that everything that's in here is going to be covered in the $335 million bond. Maybe I misheard, misunderstood. It's a really big list, right? And so, as I understand, there's going to be a further evaluation of that list to really whittle down what's critically important, right? A lot of needs for the kids and for the community. And so I want to understand from leadership and moving forward, what is that list going to look like, right? Because there's a lot of important needs out there. And for me is to continue to just be an advocate for all the kids in the district, not just one program, right?
Right.
And so to understand what does that what look like, and what does the schedule look like for that what moving forward, right? Because it's a multi-year bond, right? The tranches, right? Understanding the schedule, maybe that's too early, but to really understand the what and the schedule that goes along, that's going to be important for community members and others that are interested. What am I really voting for? How long is this going to take, right?
Gotcha.
You had 2026 as a date up there, but the last tranche is 2029, right? So understanding the schedule and what fits in that bucket and when that bucket is going to be emptied to really start the development and everything that goes into this process.
Gotcha. Let me, and then I'll turn it over if any of the district staff want to address that. So just some clarity about, you saw lots of lists tonight. What I believe is, obviously we have these tier 1, these top priority lists. Then we had another list that was, that may have even the top priority and then even some next priority and next priority. I do not believe that all of that, I don't know, but I don't know that all of that would fit in $335 million. I do believe that a good portion, if not all of that, tier 1. However, even within that tier 1, there needs to be, and that's what we're continuing to work on with the district, is refinement of what that means, right? So I'll just use gymnasium addition for an example. So gymnasium addition is what exactly do we need to have in that gymnasium? But that falls under that equity component, right? So what would we need to do with those campuses to make them equitable with the other campuses, right? So that's part of this process of defining the what. The next part of that also is defining when you talk about the schedule. We'll have some of that up front, but oftentimes in any bond program, you don't know all of that up front because some projects won't require much design. upgrading an HVAC system may require less lead time than designing a multi-purpose fine arts room for 3 high schools. So my guess would be some of that type of work, LED lighting, you may see first before you see some of these other projects. Some of these, we're not talking about building brand new campuses, additional campuses per se. So a lot of this work has to be done while we're still educating kids on those campuses. So there's this staging that has to happen. So that oftentimes is determined after the bond passes, because so we may not know that exactly up front. We usually can say, though, hey, within, say, 5 years or 4 years that we would be able to finish most of these projects. But having that well-defined, like which ones exactly will come in year 1, we may not get to that point. But I do believe we can give you kind of a, hey, everything, this is what was determined to be the list, and if the voters say yes, we believe by this date we would be able to accomplish all of those things. Staff, was there district staff, or I don't know if any of my team from Pfluger that wants to?
And as far as determining the list, January, I believe it's January 27th, we're having a board meeting. By that time, we will have determined what the draft list will be. We'll be taking that to the board, and then February 10th will be the final list. So on the 27th, they can give us feedback, and then we have the ability to make changes at that point, but then the final one would be then on the 10th for the bond referendum.
Anything else?
You may want to talk about the walkthrough they did today, the architects.
Oh, yes, thank
If
you.
We can discuss the walkthrough. Some of the architects from Pfluger and Mr. Trevino, our facilities executive director, did some walkthroughs at the 3 high schools just to get a better idea of
Right.
of the issues or what we need to do at the 3 comprehensive high schools.
Yes, thank you. I'll ask Josh Sawyer, our lead educational planner, to kind of talk about what they were doing today.
Yeah, thank you. We went around the schools, the 3 high schools today, with Mr. Trevino, and really to get to the point of what Robbie's talking about. The list had been generated, but the specifics about the list are what we're trying to determine now, and that's ultimately what leads to a cost. So when you're talking about fine arts facilities or CTE facilities, understanding what you have at those existing campuses, what the spaces look like, what the needs are to get to the modern educational and learning environments that we're talking about. But additionally, for us to be able to put our eyes on some of those systems and some of those spaces to help determine at a very high level. When we're in bond planning and we're talking about the scope of work that we're looking at this point, we're up what I like to call it the 30,000 foot level. We're in an airplane looking down on these campuses and understanding what's going. And as you go through the design process, everything leading to construction is when you get to those finite details. Those details are not determined now, they are determined later, but we need to understand as much as we can at this high level, and those walkthroughs help us understand that. So we're starting to put some scope, some understanding of square footage needs, what equipment is going in those spaces, what the spaces are currently being used for, what they could be used for in the future, and then most importantly, spaces that don't have homes, such as mariachi that was mentioned, some of the other programs, I think dance, there were some athletic facilities that didn't exactly have homes, that we're trying to determine the needs on those square footages so that we can start to put some more detail to the numbers. The numbers that have been generated right now are kind of high level, and we're trying to get to more and more detail leading up to the January meetings. Does that help?
Yeah. Yes. Any questions about that process? Like I said, we're these meetings are touch points for us to communicate with you, but there is daily work going on as we're refining this in order to make sure that the board has the most refined and as specific as possible information for when they need to make a decision in terms of calling for the bond. And I just want to say, and I just want to commend the board again too, having been attending board meetings for the past few months, and even had an opportunity to speak to the board last month. This board has shown to me that they take this very seriously. They're very interested in being very thoughtful about this process. Dr. Gutierrez and his team work very hard in making sure they're providing the board with all of that information that they need, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are required. None of us can call for a bond election. Even Dr. Gutierrez can't do that. Only the board can do that. So we want to make sure they have the best information they can have. All right. Again, we are grateful to work alongside McAllen ISD and work alongside you in the community, and are excited about what is to come in the future.
Well, thank you very much. As you heard right now, January 7th is our next meeting, and it'll probably be the final meeting with the FFAC in this format. And then the remainder of the meetings will be at the board meeting, and you all are welcome to attend. But we do encourage you to please come on January 7th, because that's where you're going to be providing feedback. We'll be, talking about those specific projects and what's going to make the bond referendum or not, and you will be providing feedback. So it's important that you be here and you represent the district and the community with that information. And if there are no more questions, we would like to close this meeting. All right? Yes.
I just want to say one thing, aside from thank you guys for coming again and participating. You don't have to wait for the board meeting. We are getting text messages, emails, phone calls every day from people across the community with their ideas, their thoughts, people that aren't able to attend. So I encourage you to please reach out to your trustees. If you don't have our contact information, it's on the webpage. You can talk to us here, those of us that are here now, but this decision is going to be made with you all, with the community. So those of you that aren't here, that are watching online, please feel free to reach out to us. All right, thanks. With that, we're adjourned.
Thank you. And we'll stay behind in case anybody has any questions.